All right, Jeff, good to meet you.
Yeah, all good. Good to have a chat.
I know Jeffrey from a bunch of TikTok lives. He is on and he's always super well spoken. I think you were on Globebusters years ago. Is that true? Do I remember that or no?
No,
Okay.
I'm fairly new, probably about 6 months that I've been on TikTok panels. For some reason, just felt compelled to go straight up. So I'm probably flat earther from about 8 months ago.
Oh wow,
Uh,
you're
yeah, I
real.
went straight onto panels. I went straight onto panels and then went pretty hard from there and just gained some knowledge and became a sponge. So I just absorb anything that I can from anyone and then try and round it out.
What is your
So,
background? Can I ask?
yeah, so ex-military and I'm a personal trainer, nurse, so bit of a mixed bag. I've also done missionary service, so I have a very sound knowledge of Christianity and religion through history. Uh, yeah, a bit eclectic, I suppose.
All right, and when Jeffrey's on a panel and he's given the leeway, he will talk high level, very intense, to the
Mm.
detail. I'm going to ask you to just keep it super simple for this
Uh,
conversation. All right.
that's hard. That's hard for me.
I know it's hard, but I'll reel you in when necessary. The other day,
Okay.
you were on a panel and you were talking about the problem of the three body problem. And
Yeah, I like to do it in great detail.
let's do that. But again, we're going
Yeah.
to try to dumb it down for the people that are brand new to that never even considered what gravity is. Right. So go ahead, you go and we'll talk.
I'll, yeah. All right. So, I mean, the whole idea is that there's a preamble. You have to understand what the three body problem is relative to. So, there's a preamble that has to be established. So, the first part of that would be um, what is an orbit? An orbit is meant to be, and this is the definition that is generally given when you look up, an artificial intelligence response. It's a precise balance between inertia and gravity. So back in 1666, obviously in early 16th century, we had Copernicus putting forward the idea of why heavenly bodies moved, or how they moved, I should say. And then in 1666, Newton put forward the idea of what force creates that movement, and that was gravity. But we get then 1927, you've got a man by the name of Georges Lemaitre who put forward the idea of the Big Bang, and that creates the inertia. So an orbit is a precise balance between inertia and gravity. You need that exponential speed on the x-axis, which encounters the y-axis gravitational force of a body of larger mass. So you always go around a larger body, and these orbits tend to get faster and faster. So you kind of have to set that up. And so when we consider that you have that precise balance, what will happen is if your inertia is slightly too potent, that will eject the body from orbit and become like a rogue planet, for instance. When conversely, your gravity is slightly too potent, that body will be pulled in and make contact. So you either get ejection or collision. All right, if you don't maintain that supposed precise balance. I mean, elliptical orbits are highly problematic because that's not a precise balance. You're going in and out, right? I'm not going to go into that now, but so we've established what it is. It's a precise balance between inertia and gravity. The other thing is that Einstein said there is no static anchor. So gravity is want to hold things together, but it's also want to make things move. Right? So there's no static anchor. It's all relative motion. So if something looks like it's not moving, it's only because it's going slower relative to those things that are around it. So um, no static anchor. And then basically, if the universe is about 96% nothing, which in essence it is, so it's space. Space is nothing in essence. I'm not going to go into the newer, kind of adaptations
Mm-hmm.
of dark matter and dark energy and quantum fields, which are meant to be the building blocks, blah, blah, blah. But in essence, space was always seen as nothing. Um, and the reason why it's seen as nothing is that if it is a something, if it's an atmosphere, that would create orbital degradation. And the whole underpinning of the global paradigm is that things go around other things in crazy fast, right? That everything's in orbit. So there is no static anchor in the universe, and there is no net zero gravity. So they tell you that the outer gravitational field of the Earth, for instance, is 4.5 billion light years. And I'm sure you know that a light year is 5.88 trillion miles. So take 5.88 trillion and times that by 4.5 billion.
Wait a minute. They say that the gravitational reach of the Earth is that far?
Yeah, the
So
outer
that
limit, 4.5 billion. So if the background's nothing, that nothing doesn't hold things together, right? Nothing's not a glue. So the glue is said to be gravity. And for that gravity to work, where it's surrounded by, say, 96% nothing, it's got to be pretty potent to hold everything together, right? And so that potency is expressed over insane distances. So once again, it's a precise balance between inertia and gravity. Number two, Einstein said there's no static anchor. Everything's in relative motion. Nothing is really standing still. You do have Lagrange points, which are kind of an exception, but only partially. And then number three is that there's no net zero gravity. Because if you have net zero gravity, there's no glue, right? If it's 96% nothing, nothing is not a glue. Gravity is the glue. So we've set that up. We've now set our preamble. So our preamble is basically everything is going around a body of slightly bigger size, faster and faster and faster. All right.
shouldn't we all
So
die when there's a planetary alignment? I
yeah,
mean,
well,
if
that's what I'm about to get into. So the three-body problem actually has three problems, and the first one is relative motion. The second one is proximity, and the third one is obstruction. All right. So this is why it's not only chaotic; it cannot be fixed. It cannot be solved. You cannot overcome it. It has no real essence to it. So the first one is relative motion. So let's say that you and I, Dave, are walking along a track, an athletics track, and let's say someone else like Gene, who was going to be here, is in the middle of that track on the grass. And let's say that you're the moon, I'm the earth, and Gene's the sun. And you want to get past me, you need to go faster than me, right? So the motion of the moon, or the absolute speed of the moon, is said to be 2,288 miles per hour. But the speed of the Earth is 66,600 miles per hour, which is exponentially faster than 2,288. So if you want to overtake me, then you better go pretty quick, right? You're actually going faster than 66,600. So if you're chasing a moving target, your speed has to be relative to that moving target. So as you come and you want to get past me, you would have to go my speed plus a little more. And as you get in front of me, I'm exponentially speeding towards you at 66,600 miles per hour. So you better get the heck out of my way, right? And so you're going to have to move even faster to get out of the way of me coming directly towards you at some serious speed. So if your speed's only, as the moon, is 2,288 and mine is 66,600 and you're going around me and I'm going around the sun, you're now chasing a moving target. So your speed has to be relative to that moving target, which means I can't give you an absolute speed, right? You have to slow down, speed up.
I tell people, an example would be to have a car or a bicycle or somebody just moving down the road and then try to circle them in perfect circles while they're moving, right? You got to slow down. You got to maintain. You got to speed up. You got to slow down and speed. And it's like, what causes that? Is there a heliocentric explanation for why how the moon does that?
We're not even getting into orbits. So orbits, we have angular momentum or angular velocity, and that's acceleration by definition. And they go faster and faster. So, the Earth's going around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. The sun, the Earth is then spiral vortexing with the other planets around the sun, around an arm of the Milky Way at 514,000 miles per hour. And then the entirety of the Milky Way is going around the inside of the CMBR at 1.3 million miles per hour. So if you're going to tell me that because that acceleration of 66,600 miles per hour is not particularly substantial, you're not going to feel it. I'm going to feel it by the time I get to the other end, and I'm doing 1.3 million, and we're supposedly doing an orbit with the galaxy that's, my goodness, it's meant to be 250 million years, Earth years, and 600 trillion miles. But to get back, the first problem is relative motion. The next problem is proximity. So let's say we've got the moon going around the Earth, as I said, that's fine. That's easy to factor. But now, as I said, as Einstein said, there's no static anchor. So that Earth now has to move relative to something else, and they say that's the sun. And so the moon is going around the Earth at 2,288. The Earth is now going around the sun at 66,600. And let's say that we know that the given distance to the moon is 238,000 miles.
What they claim.
And so if I have the moon, then the sun, then, the moon, then the Earth, then the sun, and then I rotate 180 degrees so that I have now the moon's done half of its orbit. It's now the Earth, moon, sun. That moon is closer to the sun, closer in proximity by 500,000 miles approximately, right?
Right.
So as it gets closer to the sun, which is said to be 1.3 million times more voluminous than the Earth, massively bigger, the big boy wins in a tug of war. So as it gets closer to that and increases its proximity, some of that energy, that force is going to be exerted upon the moon more substantially so because of 500,000 miles of increased proximity. And so if that happens, as I said before, we have to have a precise balance of inertia and gravity. Otherwise, we get ejection or collision. You're going to get ejection or collision. You're going to. And you might say that it's only a small force, but it keeps doing that. And so every time it gets closer, it's going to eat away at that precise balance of inertia and gravity, and you're going to get chaos. So that's proximity. Then you have obstruction. So if as I said, it's 96% nothing. The glue is from the 4%, the bodies, the Earth, the sun, the stars. That glue has to express itself over nothingness, over a distance. So if I have that force, that energy over distance through nothingness, and the moon gets in the way, it's now obstructing some of that gravitational force that should be expressed upon the Earth from the sun. And so once again, it's in the way of the expression of that energy over distance. And so that is also going to create orbital degradation because it's going to disturb the precise balance between inertia and gravity. And so at the start, we have relative motion. We then have proximity, which is constantly changing. Like I said, the moon can get up to almost 500,000 miles closer, generally speaking, to the sun. So that proximity is going to degrade those orbital mechanics as well. And last but not least, the obstruction from one body to the next is going to stop the effect of that energy being expressed over distance. So it is inherently insane and chaotic. It can't be fixed. It cannot be solved.
When you were arguing or trying to explain to a Globe zealot, and their only argument was, "Oh, you think there's only 3 bodies in our solar system?" Do you remember that?
Yeah, and that creates a significantly more complex
interplay. Like the two bodies is not a problem. 3 bodies is a problem. 4 bodies is a massive, bigger problem. 5 bodies, saying that it's exponentially worse doesn't even describe how much worse it is. So,
well, that's the thing too. If everything's in relative motion, and your paradigm is basically that things go around slightly bigger things insanely fast, where does that end? There's no static anchor, right?
Right, and then
if there's no static anchor,
how about
everything's
this?
going around something else.
Right. If we drop something in the atmosphere, it'll reach a maximum speed because of wind pressure, and it might even slow down a little bit as it gets into thicker air. I don't think it's going to burn up. I don't have any proof that anything burns up when it falls down. I have proof that things don't burn up. But in space, an orbit is not anti-gravity. It's just we're falling at the same rate as the Earth curve. And there's
Yep.
no air resistance. So if we're falling, how come we're not speeding up? How come
Yeah.
satellites are not speeding up?
So and that's it. Look, there's often the misnomer that we're floating in space. You're not floating in space because floating is where you have um, a rarer medium sitting atop a denser medium. Well, there's no medium, so you are falling. It's an orbit is also referred to as perpetual fall because it's falling around something with that speed.
But it has to,
Um,
a satellite at whatever altitude has to maintain that speed to maintain that orbit in theory. But if it's falling due to gravity, it doesn't matter if it's moving forward or falling straight down. It's the same thing in space. It would
yeah,
always be speeding up. And then that perpetual balance is gone in a split second.
yeah. So they say that there is no directional bias in space. Basically, falling is relative to the next body of greater mass. All right. And that's why they also have to say that there's no net zero gravity, because otherwise
Yeah.
you'd actually be falling, right? You
And
know what I'm saying? It's got to be
right,
glue.
right. What about, when you're talking about the orbit of the moon, and now how far did you say the Earth's gravity goes?
So they say basically they talk about gravity being in some way infinite, which is ludicrous. But references that I got said the outer limit is 4.5 billion light years,
4.5.
which is
Wait, hold on. 4.5
billion,
light years or billion light years?
billion light years.
That's stupid.
And,
I
and
mean, 4.5 light years is stupid, right?
yeah,
4.5.
well, then you get the idea that if the glue is gravity and you have the concept of expansion, the expansion destroys
Wait,
the glue.
let's just put this into reference for people.
Insane.
4.5 light years. Forget the billion. Okay.
Yeah.
4.5 billion light year. 4.5 light years is where they say the closest star to our solar system is. 4.5 light years. That's 25 trillion miles rounding off. 25 trillion miles. If you and I were in a spaceship going a mile per second, it would take 31,000 years to go 1/25th of the way there. And they want to say
Yeah.
that our gravity's still holding on, right? Globe.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Gravity seems to be potently impotence locally,
All
but
right.
then it becomes,
I'm
it
just blown
becomes,
away. I can't even believe that they claim that. What you just told me is absolutely blowing my mind. So, would Jupiter have even a farther reach than us because it has so much more gravity? Would the sun have a farther reach, or, I mean, 4.5 what billion light
light years.
years?
And
That's
a
the
light
Earth.
years 5.88 trillion miles. So
Yeah. So,
5.88 trillion miles times
and people
4.5
have no
billion.
idea even what a trillion is. So the sun, everything that has gravity is going to travel that far, if not farther. If it has more gravity, it would go even farther, right? More gravity, more
It's
more
1.3
distance.
billion times the mass of the Earth.
So it's 4.5
That actually,
billion light years times 1.3 million. That's how far the sun's gravity goes.
well, the sun is 1.3 million times more voluminous than the Earth. It's massive comparative in their paradigm. For you and I, we believe it's local and that it's a load of garbage. But anyway,
So
yeah.
so again, just looking at anybody that thinks this through has to just throw out the heliocentric model. That's the problem. The problem is people don't have the ability to think. They're fluoridated. They got the human pincushion. They're unable to think. They're indoctrinated from their Rockefeller textbooks. When we just a couple months ago, they said, "Oh, all the planets were lining up." Well, what about all that gravity? What about when the moon comes towards the sun? The gravity should speed it up a little bit. Then it has to kind of bank arc around because the Earth's gravity is going to hold it. It's not going to get ripped away. Why wouldn't the moon just go around towards the sun? And then it has to go away, and the sun's gravity would be pulling on it.
And as you had that moon in front of it, the moon can't move 2,288 miles per hour because the Earth is moving 66,600 miles per hour and it's careening towards it as it comes in front of it. It's going bang, it's going to hit it.
Well,
It
no,
needs to
it
get its
speeds
butt
up.
out of the
You don't
way.
understand. The moon's going 67,000 miles an hour, and here it's going 68, 9,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Then it slows
Right.
down, and now it's going 66,000 miles an hour. And now it's speeding up to 67, and then it's going to speed up again.
And that's the carry on effect. It's like the butterfly effect. That's going to carry on along the chain. You
Right.
know, the idea of relative motion, of proximity, of obstruction. You know, you've got utter chaos along the chain. So basically, you're creating a paradigm that can't exist in the first instance. It can't exist.
Jeff,
And then at the other end, you can go into what's called the nth degree problem. So at the start, you can't model it, and at the end, it destroys itself. So if we are in a, you know, they go out to the CMBR, the cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the leftover kind of haze or radiation from 13.8 billion years ago when the Big Bang happened, right? So they factor
the
to that
Big
because they
Bang
say
that was
they can't.
made up by a Jesuit priest.
By Jesuit priest Georges Lemaitre,
Yeah.
in 1927, and so this is the idea. They can only see to that point, and they can't factor further. But if you agree with Einstein that there's no static anchor, and you agree that gravity wants to hold things together and wants to make things move along with inertia when they pair together, then in a potentially infinite universe, you have to continue to factor that because you can't be static. And so something is going around something slightly bigger because it has to have a greater gravitational field, right? Mass attracting mass kind of thing. So it has to go around something bigger and go faster and faster ad infinitum. We already go from the moon doing 2,288, you know, the Earth doing 66,600 miles per hour. Nice use of the mark of the beast. We then have, you know, us spiral vortexing with the sun around an arm in the Milky Way at 514,000 miles. And then at the other end, we have 1.3 million miles for the entirety of the Milky Way. Now, if you continue past that CMBR and you don't have a static point, and you have, you know, gravity being the glue, which wants to hold things together and move, then you're going up and up and up and up. So we could be theoretically doing 50 trillion miles per hour. And if you want to tell me that 66,600 miles per hour, you're not going to feel the acceleration due to angular momentum, right? Due to acceleration. You're going to feel it at 1.3 mil, and you're certainly going to feel it at 50 trill. Now, eventually, even though space is said to be nothing, and the reason they say that is because if it, as I said, if it had an atmosphere, that would create friction, and that friction would degrade orbits. That would destroy your balance again. So they have to declare that it's nothing. Interesting, Aristotle, who started this, right, the idea of the globe, not the heliocentric model, that was in the 1600s. But he put forward the idea that nature abhors a vacuum, hates it, and that if something moves in the heavenly bodies, it should move through a substance. And he called that the quintessence, which is the ether. NASA has the exact opposite paradigm. They say that nature loves a vacuum and, in fact, needs a vacuum because if something moves, it should move without friction, right? In nothing. And so they have the exact opposite paradigm. Now, and as I said, if you do that, that keeps going to the nth degree. And let's say you're doing 50 trillion miles per hour, right? Because all those speeds are still relative to the Earth because it's moving in with the galaxy, you know, yada, yada. Then everything would be torn apart. There would be no structural integrity once you get to a certain point. So you can't reason this ad infinitum. They say they can because there's no friction, there's no, you know, feeling or sensation of the speed because you're going through nothing. But the mere fact that you are going in an orbit is acceleration and is destructive. It's like when you're in an aeroplane and you're going, you know, straight and level, you're not going to feel it too much. Agreed. You're in an enclosed system. But if that thing starts to bank, you're going to feel that, right?
As soon as the pilot starts to descend, you wake up. You're like, "Whoa! I changed vectors." You know
exactly.
it. You know it immediately. All right, I want to kind of keep this a little short, but I want to touch two more things on gravity.
Yeah.
Would centrifugal force be the same as gravity? I mean, the force. Like, because it might be a stupid question, but somebody brought this up, and maybe you were on the live when they did this. They said an experiment whether gases are attracted to gravity is have a bucket of gas, and you know you can swing a
Yeah.
bucket of water around and put it in a centrifuge, super fast and then suck the air out of that room. Would the air stay in the bucket due to the centrifugal force? I know a rock would stay in the bottom of that bucket, right? All right, so that's something just to think about. The other thing is,
and the thing is that water would it wouldn't be concave; it would convex. That's what we see when we have that kind of effect. So it's the exact opposite of what they're saying.
The water would
climb up the walls of the bucket.
Yeah, no, that's if the bucket was spinning. But if the bottom of the bucket was to the outside, it would be pushed to the bottom of the bucket. And I think it would. I think it would take the shape of the bottom of the bucket. I'm not sure.
As it pushes out, it's also going to, because of the, once you get to a certain speed, it's going to come up the side as well. You're going to get concavity rather than convexity.
Right? Yeah. It's going to be concavity to the circumference of the circle that you're making. It's gonna match that. All right. So Globers say, you can't feel the spin of the Earth because it's only going around once a day, half the speed of an hour hand on a clock, which is stupid. Because my analogy is, if you're on a merry-go-round that was regular size, merry-go-round that was spinning once per day, you'd barely notice you were moving if you'd notice at all, right? But expand that out to 24 miles in circumference. Now you're moving a mile an hour. All right. There's really not much centrifugal force there, but now make it 24,000 miles around, right? Now you're going 1,000 miles an hour, banking to the right at 60 miles an hour. You're going to fly off that horse.
Yeah, you represent that angular momentum as tangential velocity,
right?
And you're going stupidly fast.
And to prove, and I've watched somebody spinning objects up, and objects when they wider objects as they spin, they explode. But when the smaller objects don't explode at the same RPMs, right? So,
well, as far as the merry-go-round analogy, that definitely, they say you're rotating once. But if you've got that exponential distance, obviously the man in the middle is barely moving at all. But the man on the outside of 24,901 is moving over a massive distance at massive speed.
If the guy on the inside horse that's just we'll say a mile from the center of the merry-go-round, he's moving at less than a mile per hour, like super slow. He's not even. But the guy on the outside is going. It's like you're on the top of an airplane that's banking to the right and going twice the speed of a normal airplane.
Yep.
The point I wanted to make is a simple experiment that anyone can do is. I gotta film this because I did it years ago and I didn't film it. Get a rock and put it on a little string, maybe 6 inches, and just turn around. Just a regular spin around, and the rock will barely lean outwards due to the centrifugal force, right?
Yeah.
So then get a rock and start spinning around and let that line out farther and farther and farther. And you'll notice the farther out you go, the slower you can spin, and the rock will maintain, would not hit the ground. The object you have. So you can, as it gets farther and farther out, you can go slower and slower and slower.
Yeah.
And
that's the trouble. It's the idea of physics, isn't it? It takes more energy to initiate movement than it does to sustain movement. That's fascinating physics. Yeah,
Jeff, that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to put this in the gravity section on the app and upload it on my channel. And now I want to talk to you about, and I probably won't include this in the video, but I got this NASA fanboy coming over. Hey everybody, I'm sure you're sick of my normal intermission, so I'm just going to do a little one here. It's about Masterpiece. This stuff is amazing. It detoxes you from all of the stuff that you may or may not have intentionally put inside of yourself and all the stuff that's falling out of the sky. Check out my interview with Terry from Masterpiece. She goes over all the science behind it. Do some real research. Check out Crow 777 Radio. He has done many interviews on this stuff. This stuff is amazing. I take it every day, twice a day, 4 drops on your tongue. It tastes like salt water. It's delicious and keeps you healthy. So there you go. Back to the show. You can find links on the app and the shopping center section under every video and on my website. Thanks. This is so I'm breaking every rule. First, don't talk to 21-year-olds. They're the dumbest people on earth. Right? He's 21. 2, if you believe in the moon landing, you're not ready for this conversation. He loves NASA, everything NASA, even current NASA. Like, so I'm going against the dumbest guy in the world with the dumbest beliefs. But
Yeah, I agree.
he seems to be authentic, whether he's just totally brainwashed naturally or he's in some MK mind control friggin' program, which I wouldn't doubt. Um, I think he's gonna allow me to speak. What's my like? And I don't want to talk about stuff like, um, just stuff that we can argue about all day. Like, what things can I nail him into the corner with?
Yeah.
Any
Well, like I
suggestions?
said, if the three body problem, usually people talk about relative motion, right? They don't talk about the proximity. They don't talk about the obstruction. Those are the three aspects of the three body problem. You should put them together. Secondly, as I said, if you take the nth degree, gravity will not only want to hold everything together and make it move, it will want to tear everything apart. Once you keep going that nth degree, when you've got no static anchor, everything will be torn apart. So gravity destroys gravity. It actually makes no sense. These orbits make no sense in any way, shape, or form. At the start of the paradigm, you can't make it work, and at the end of the paradigm, it would destroy itself. It's insane. It
Yeah.
really is. I used to believe in this, and I find myself to be an idiot for having done so.
I have a bunch of NASA fails like on the space station, wires and green screens and just slip ups. And he's just going to make excuses. He's just going to make
Yeah.
excuse after excuse after excuse.
Mm.
Should be interesting.
Well, can I
Good.
mention one more thing? So when you
Yeah.
talked about the merry-go-round, that's the radius, when the radius value increases or changes. As it increases, you're going to move faster and further than the person near the central point, like on
Sure.
the clock you've got.
Yeah.
Now that's the same. So they say the atmosphere moves with the Earth. Now that's a bit of a problem, right? Because the Earth is solid, so you can kind of imagine it turning. The atmosphere, though, is not a solid, it's a gas. So what would have to happen is, it's like on a running track, is every time you stepped up, say, another 100 meters or whatever,
It has to
the
go
gas at that
faster. It has to go
would have
faster.
to go faster.
Right.
And
And
so if it's engaged in this lateral movement and faster in that lateral movement up to the Kármán line of 62 miles,
yeah.
if it's engaged in that and maintaining that movement with the Earth, how does it create our everyday, manifestations of storms and everything else? It's because now we're saying the wind's moving every which way. We're making hurricanes, we're making this, that, and the other.
I was
But if
just
you tell me
watching
it's
clouds the
engaged in
other
that
day
lateral movement,
going both directions at different levels.
yeah. So it can only go one direction now. If you say that it moves in lockstep with the Earth,
Yeah.
it is engaged in the practice of going one direction and each level going faster than the previous. And that's just ridiculous because it's a gas. It's not cohesive, right? It's random molecules moving randomly. So how the hell is it moving in a cohesive way? Each molecule would have to move faster than the last as you go higher and higher.
What about this?
It's insane.
What about this? The Artemis trip. So they're in this
Yeah.
capsule gliding to the moon, right?
Mm.
It's okay. We could don't freak out. I expected better from them, didn't you? Didn't you expect like a better deception?
It was like 1969 level. I was expecting CGI.
It was
I was
horrible. It was
expecting,
horrible. So,
it was garbage.
but here's the example. I have a small boat. I have a 23-foot boat, and when we're out there just floating, and calm, no tide, no wind, if you move across the boat will move in the water, even though the water has some resistance against the boat. Well, if you're in space with no resistance, no air, no nothing, and you're pushing off the wall and pushing here, isn't the spaceship going to be moving in every direction, every opposite direction? Like if everyone moved over to one side of the ship and pushed off the wall to go to the other side, what's stopping the ship from moving in space and going off its trajectory? What stops the ship from tumbling?
Well, for starters, you can't make a logical extension. You can't say that Newton's three laws of motion, which he made on Earth, thinking about Earth, now automatically apply to space. To do that makes you an idiot, right? You can't reason that. you have to question the narrative a little further if you're going to apply it to a place where there is no atmosphere. And you and I know that is breaking a couple of substantial laws. Right? It doesn't work. Scientific laws. So, the idea of having, a pressurized system next to a vacuum, that breaks the
Right.
second law of thermodynamics.
What
And
about
then the idea that the rocket goes is when it has no medium to
right?
displace.
They argue
Obviously,
they'll
raises the overall
argue
momentum.
ionic propulsion and whatnot. What about we know that um, like when we watch astronauts do spacewalks in their I call them snowboarding suits. They're flexible
Yeah.
snowboarding suits. How come they don't explode?
Yeah, well, see that. Remember 1965? So they did. They utilized the vacuum in NASA
Yep.
in 1965, and a
And
man.
the
He
guy
said
almost passed out and died. Yeah.
the lava started to boil on his. Started to bubble on his tongue,
Yep.
because we know that water can boil in a vacuum. And he quickly lost consciousness, and
Yep.
they freaked out. Now, from that time on, they started using water. What has water got to do with a vacuum? If at sea level we got 14.7 psi, and that acts on the outside of your body has to equate with it. It has to push against it to
Yep.
create stability, right? So if you then go from an atmosphere where you say, at 14.7 psi or slightly less than that, and you're suddenly going to an environment where there's none, basically everything inside of you wants to go, because there's nothing holding it in place. You were born into an environment with an atmosphere, and so your body has to work in that atmosphere. Take it away, and you get chaos. So it's the same idea that if you put a balloon in a vacuum, it's going to significantly expand, and so would you. And these NASA suits, they don't
They,
look like they're like
they
cut the
they
mustard.
claim that they're made of 7 layers of like Kevlar and this and that. So what? I don't care what the layers are made of. What's stopping it from exploding? Then they
Yeah,
claim, well, there's just there's lower pressure in them. I don't care how much pressure is in there. There's any air in there, it wants out.
it's insane.
It, there's,
You know,
there's
the people don't understand. Even the man that spoke about that incident in 1965 said, we've never had a situation before this where we've seen how the human body reacts to a vacuum. Where that pressure, that external pressure equalizing with the internal pressure takes place, where you take that away. And they did it once and they had catastrophe. And they say there was a leak in the suit. I think, I'm not going to swear on your podcast, but I want to swear. I think that's a load of crap. Right? I think it's because you're in a vacuum. Your body can't deal with it. And those suits they're just fabric. They're not designed to
well, they
to
are
take over
designed, and here's proof. Prada is going to design the new NASA moon
that.
suit.
They should have a little catwalk up on the moon rather than the game of golf this time. Idiots. Yeah.
Um, any other suggestions on what I should bring up with this kid? I am going to take him. Hopefully the weather holds out. I have I can go 20. I think I get about 23 miles away from this power plant that's right on the water, and the smokestack should be, which is 5 times taller than the building. We should only see the very top of the smokestack, and I can see the building. I can see houses below the building, and I can see houses farther away on farther land. So here's the question I want to ask: Is
Well, you and I, we're flat earthers. We're experts at perspective, aren't we? That's the first thing we have to do to educate people that are fools.
well, their god is gravity and refraction. So refraction. Okay, listen, I agree. Over distance, things compress, expand, magnify, mirage, genie. They do all sorts of things. But that's only, and, the salt water, the laser will bend. You've seen it all.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen it.
but if you don't have line of sight to something, there is no distortion, refraction, or anything. Like, what weather system will come in and let you see my mouth? What
Yeah.
weather system could you bring in here? How far away do I have to bring this book, right, for you to see
Well,
my mouth?
well, the other thing is the refraction. If you're at the sea level is 14.7, so that's the highest degree of atmosphere. So the most dense atmosphere. at the ground, it's still going to be the highest level relative to higher up. So sea level is 14.7. Once you get to 50,000 feet, it drops to like 1.7. So it does drop exponentially, but it's still a pressurized system, right? And so you have to perceive that as well. Where it's thickest at the ground, the idea of refraction is that light goes from a denser to a rarer medium, or vice versa, and basically slows down the speed of the light, which I find interesting because when they talk about speed of light, but it slows down the speed of light and then creates an angle relative to, I think they call it the normal. Yeah, the normal. So if you're at the ground, you're already at the thickest level. Obviously, temperature comes into that too, because temperature is going to either increase or decrease pressure. But you're already at the ground. You're already at the point where there is maximal atmospheric pressure. So you can't say that it's going to be a substantial amount of refraction, really, when you're already at a thick level. Right?
So this right here is the Artemis when they were coming back to Earth. This is the capsule that landed. It's weird reflection here. This kind of looks concave, but forget that. Were they in here the whole time, or were they in here the whole time? Because I had this kid interviewed the head of NASA, and he said, anything you want me to ask? And I gave him some questions, and he asked this one. And he said, I said, how did they get from here into here? Right, here's the door. Right? and his response was, they were in there the whole time.
Yeah.
Did you see the video footage of how small this thing is when they were rescuing it? All the footage of them laying around and playing with their Nutella and stuff. What's the official story? Were they, what is this? What were they doing? What was this thing the whole time?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. What's the point? Yeah. And the thing is, if that's separate, if that's there, that would probably give you more stabilization in flight. So they said that when they re-entered the Earth, obviously there were 3 cuts too, mind you. It wasn't a perpetual feed. It never is. We know that.
This is what they showed us. This is NASA footage of it separating. Look at this little clip. The little clip was holding them on. I don't know where it is in that shot. Oh, I just noticed that clip.
Yeah, I saw it in the first one. Oh, yeah, there. Yeah.
That's nuts. That's so nuts.
Yeah. Well, then this idea that they re-entered at 25,000 miles per hour. Obviously, the Kármán line's most sources say the Kármán line's 62, but for some reason they worked off 75, right?
Right.
They then said obviously they would be going at insane speeds, and they would hit the water at insane speeds, and they would all just get turned into mincemeat, right? But what they did is they reckoned that they went in essence sideways, horizontally. They, instead of going down 75 miles based on their calculation, they went 1,950 miles in essence sideways,
right,
at an angle of 2.2 degrees. Now, if that's going to happen and that thing doesn't have its propulsion system or anything to stabilize it, it doesn't have wings or any kind of stabilization, and the bottom is heavy comparative to the top,
it would tip.
You're going to get tumbling, right? You're going to get tumbling at that speed. That would turn everything inside there into basically mush. So that was ridiculous. Then when it touches down, you should see steam. They have the Van Allen belts. But even when you get past the Kármán line, so there are 5 layers of the atmosphere. The first layer is the exosphere. And that exosphere, even just the exosphere, is meant to be 1,200 degrees Celsius. It's hot.
Right. I'm trying to find.
You don't see any steam. You don't see any vaporization of the water when it hits. The whole thing is just an insane farce. There's no, you can't give credence to this.
Yeah. So here is whoops. Let me get rid of that. Here's the famous Nutella scene. Now it's hard to see. All 4 astronauts are over here. All right. So who threw the Nutella? But that's not why I'm showing you this. Look at the size of this. Where are they? Where are they?
They're not in that capsule.
They're not in that capsule. And then. Here is where's the landing? And
where's the 4th wall? You never see the 4th wall. They never turn the camera around to show you the 4th wall.
Well, that's just the law of space. In space, when landing, you're not allowed to show the 4th wall.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to find where is the
Kind of like when you're in a studio and you never see the fourth wall because that's where the cameras are.
Yeah.
And that's where the men are taking the shots. Yeah. All the
And
people.
then in there's also a bathroom, a sunken bathroom, right? With wood paneling. Right? This is also in that capsule. Right?
Mm.
Where is the bathroom?
Yeah.
Um oh
Did
here's
they give you a feed? Did they show you inside the capsule when they were coming out? No, they didn't.
of course not. Um
No.
so you saw this when it landed. It's funny shape it made.
There were
Like
three cuts. The first cut shows you, and it's obviously CGI. It's actually low
yeah,
grade, really
yeah,
crappy. Where you see the flames around the pod, and then it cuts and you see this kind of like shockwave effects of these white ripples.
yep.
And then it cuts again, and then you see this falling through the sky. Where's the look? These people are paid what? It used to be 69 mil a day. Now it's gone up to like 72 mil a day, and they can't give us a perpetual feed with cameras. They're not worth their money, are they?
No. So
They gave us Velcro.
yeah, all right.
They gave us
So
Velcro.
so this is the recovery. Now remember, we have a bathroom in there. We have all that pile of stuff that the guy was laying on top. You have all the where they're working around. You have the chairs that they're in. So this is look how small this thing is. Now this, I
Yeah.
believe this is completely AI. I don't think any of this is real. Right? Now look how thick the door is. So now we have this small little thing with walls a foot thick. So that takes a lot of space out of the inside. Right? If the wall is that thick, this is half the size interior. When you reduce that much space on the inside, right? So now this guy goes in there. This is totally not real. Like all of a sudden, people's bodies change and everything. But now a second 6 foot something guy is going in there. So now, where's the bathroom? Where's all of the stuff? They got their chairs. This is not the same thing that they were in. And this is not the same thing that we just saw from the outside.
No, agreed.
It's so dumb.
Well, people want to believe. Obviously they need to take advantage of youth. So they'll teach you these things. Like my son's 9. And, it was a couple of years ago, I think, when they taught him about space. So they're going to teach you when you're young to indoctrinate you with stupidity, because none of it makes any sense.
Does your son know the earth is flat? I'm sure.
I'm sure he does. I've told him
okay.
quite a few times.
Does he go to public school?
He does, but it's not a bad one.
Okay.
It's he's good. He reads scriptures.
All right.
Yeah, I'm proud of that boy. I'll tell you what.
Very good. Very good. All right. Anything else? Any other ideas for this kid? I mean, basically, I don't know where the conversation is going to go, but there's nothing he can say. I mean, there's so much stuff. He's just going to be in denial. Yep. Here's the problem. First, 21-year-olds are just the height of dumb. Like angels won't. If you're between 18 and 21, he's like, no, get out.
Gets rid of. Yeah. I agree.
He's got pretty famous. He's got a huge YouTube and other Instagram and everything. And he has access to NASA. He interviewed the director a couple of days ago. He interviews astronauts. He gets to go to these launches from a distance or anything. I think they're just, indoctrinating him more and more. But I'm just thinking, there's no way he's going to accept anything I say, because his entire life is destroyed if he does.
Well, yeah, that's his whole existence, pretty much.
Yeah, and
so cognitive dissonance is real. It's so real. It's painful.
It's beyond. Here's the thing, and that people don't understand, and it's the way our minds work. And by the way, there's a movie called Planet Mind Control. Have you seen it yet? On my app, if you go to the homeschool section right here, Planet Mind Control. I think it's planetmindcontrol.com. That you can just go there. And it's phenomenal, but it teaches you how they program us. Why are there globes in the background of every movie? Well, there's a reason. It's an imprint. It's an imprint. It's an imprint. It's an imprint. And because you saw so many globes, you will defend the globe. But when you believe something 100%, not 99%, 100%, even when you are shown undeniable evidence,
Yep.
You will make up something to defend it. Otherwise, you become disoriented. You literally will lose you will become disoriented and confused. So
Yeah.
you have to make up an excuse, and then you will believe what you just made up
Mm-hmm.
because of
Well,
your
see,
belief.
do you understand there's two types of possession? I'm not going to get into the religious too much
Oh,
here, but
I'm down.
there's
I love this. Bring it. Bring it.
okay. So there's two types of possession, and I'm sure you probably heard Aloha give some kind of treatise on this, but there's physical. So as Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee, he steps out. He sees a man that's chained and fetters, asks for his name, and he says, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Why have you come to torment us? Because they know the potency of Jesus. And he said, you got to get out. And they were allowed to go into the bodies of swine that ran into the Sea of Galilee and drowned themselves. So that's the obvious possession that we deal with. The possession is just another word for own. So if I teach you a lie from a young age, and I teach you that everything is nihilistic, there is no substance, no meaning in anything. You're floating on this. Once again, see, I'm using the misnomer too because I've been programmed. You're falling on this insane ball. There was a big bang where the universe kind of pulled itself out of itself, without being crass. That everything is nihilistic. Things are just happenstance, and there's no significance. And like even in suffering, there's no significance. Well, if I tell you that, and you believe in evolution, you believe in the Big Bang, you believe in these nihilistic constructs, then I alter your life's course. I take away meaning from that life's course. And so in that, I have possessed you. I own you. I own you because you swallowed my lie. And in that, I alter your course because if you go through hardship, you suddenly come back to the idea that life has no meaning and everything is nihilistic. Rather than, we're here to learn and go through faith, and even in suffering, there is meaning and there is development. So that is an insidious type of possession that is just as insidious as a spirit inside a body that it should not be in. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And I was possessed for most of my life by that indoctrination, by that belief. It wasn't until I discovered flat Earth. I discovered flat Earth before I knew the moon landing was fake. Isn't that weird? Most people come
For
from
me,
fake moon landing to the flat Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, it's a recent thing. It's very recent. So I've only been on panels for 6 months. I'm a sponge. So every time I hear someone, I go, that's pretty cool. I'll read up a bit more and then I'll make sure that I construct it and explain it better than the other person. So, I'm not arrogant. Everybody has something to learn from everyone else. That's definitely the case. So
right.
I adhere to that.
My thing is because, I would label myself, formally label myself as ADD, short, like get to the point. And I wanted everything immediately, right? But flat Earth has taught me patience, taught me that things aren't just yes or no. You have to look, you have to think, you have to use your mind, right? But that's not what we're taught in school. We're taught to memorize, regurgitate, get an A, and you get an ice cream cone because you did that.
Even university is called university. It's oneness. You've got to do what some other bugger tells you to do, and think the way they want you to think.
100%. So that's why my DITRH YouTube channel, it's all videos they're all under 5 minutes. Short, just to get somebody to watch a 3-hour movie on something they're not interested in is almost impossible. But hey, watch this 3-minute movie. Wow, that's interesting. Now they'll watch a 5-minute movie, and now they're in. And so for you, your explanations are awesome. They're high level and they're great for educating smart flat earthers. The problem is, I don't care about flat earthers. They already know. They're already awake. They're on their journey. Of course, I care about everybody, but it's the people that haven't bothered to use their God-given common sense because it was taken away from them. And so when you have these awesome explanations, make a short version. Make a short version. Maybe start making. You
Yeah,
can't
I
do
know.
it.
So the idea of the preamble, and so there's a lot of preamble there. Like when I talked about, balance of
Yeah.
inertia and gravity to create an orbit, no static anchor, yada yada, no net zero gravity, is because when you explain those three aspects of relative motion, proximity, and obstruction, you're going to have that cognitive dissonance show up. And I'll go, hang on, I just explained the whole background to you. It doesn't work, right?
Yep.
I've already kicked them before they know they've been kicked. Now that's the whole idea, is just put it all together and go, here's why you can't come back at me.
I
I'm going to
got it.
give you the preamble. I'm going to explain it. That's how
Your
I
your,
work. And
your stuff, it really isn't complicated. It's just people have to you have to just hook them quickly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not criticizing you at all. Your stuff's absolutely phenomenal, and keep doing it, brother.
Yeah, look, I enjoy it, and as I said, I'll always, there's a part of me that wants to explain it more effectively than the next person, because you'll hear about relative motion. No one talks about proximity or obstruction. No one talks about the nth degree. I mean,
So,
this is all logical, right?
yeah.
It's all
Let me ask you one final question, and I'm going to wrap it up. What drives you to do this? You've been doing it for 8 months. You've been doing it a lot. I see you all over the place, and you're well spoken. What motivates you to do this?
It's the truth.
Thank you.
Look, it took a while to accept it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because as humans, we don't have a full picture. We live by faith. We don't understand the eternal. We don't understand eternal life. We think that if we live forever, we're going to go insane. We don't understand, the infinite. We can't picture it. We can't perceive of it. There are a lot of things that are beyond our perspective. And so to look into some of these things, particularly for someone like me, I'm not ADD, but I'm OCD for sure. To look into those things, my mind's going to go deep and might actually scare itself. So it took quite a while. It's only been about 2 months ago that I actually called myself a flat earther, even though I was teaching in-depth, flat earth stuff to other people.
Jeff, do you?
Because it took a while for me to actually accept it and go, I don't know everything, but this makes a heck of a lot more sense than the other.
Flat earthers are super passionate because it's the truth, and when it resonates with you, once you become a true flat earther, and and you're being honest with yourself, there's no going back ever. I know you're on the panels a lot. Do you put up your own content, or are you just on panels?
I haven't at the moment. I've considered maybe doing some videos like on the three-body problem, the nth degree problem, on perspective, because I go into detail and explain that really well as well. The whole idea of Copernicus basically put forward 3 ideas of why it was a globe, and all 3 of those are quite daft, right? You can debunk them quite easily. The first one was perspective. Why do things disappear bottom up? Well, that's answered very easily with perspective and atmospheric conditions and so forth. So,
yep, that's one of my favorite topics there.
Yeah, I've considered putting it forward.
All right, well, let me know and I'll promote your channel. And thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When the person is ready to have the session, you will look for the resonance point in each one. So you turn on the machine, adjust the distance of the spar gap, and with one hand, the one that is connected, the accessory, and another, the tuning, you will look to the resonance, moving all the coil up and down slowly, and with the hand that is connected to the accessory, you need to listen and feel where you are getting more energy, and that will be where is. Listen to the sound, one hand in the wire of the accessory and the other in the tuning, moving all the coils, and when you find where is more sensation of energy in the accessory wire, you will find the resonance. And remember, the person must be connected and the feet must be raised from floor.